Welcome back to our mega campaign. This is the second video of Crusader Kings. We already played the whole of Imperator Rome. For the Crusader Kings campaign, I started off as a county. We have now built with Kyros, a new kingdom in the north of Caledonia, while our Grand Republic of the last game completely collapsed. Between the last video and this video, I've added a couple of new things in the world, like there is a Pope in India. And there are barbarians now invading the leftovers of Massilia. We have the Vandals, the Visigoths, and all the other great barbarians invaders. Also, we ourselves in the British Isles are struggling with Norse invaders. The Lancaster has been taken over, and the north of Ireland. We invaded Ireland and took the lands back into our lands. Well, Ireland was never ours, but we are here for their protection, of course. We moved in, we're trying to move into Lancaster and take that one over before Britannia snatches it out, because Britannia is way stronger than we are, and we just need the manpower. We also discovered Iceland, and there's a little bit of lore. We have written down a little story with Heron and with Gundur, that they discovered Iceland. It's way cooler than just saying we conquered Iceland, the discovery of Iceland. In the Discord, this is a little plug here, we also have people making up characters, and they can join like courts or whatnot. And we have here the family of Calcamont, made by one of the viewers, and we have given them the Duchy of Lancaster as the new rulers. Quickly after, our king Kyros dies, and apparently he only ruled for 4 years, but it felt way longer because so much happened. The kingdom was formed, Massilia collapsed, barbarians, Iceland was discovered. I mean, like, we made an outpost in Iceland. We invaded Ireland. So many things happened in just these 4 years. The next king is King Heron, the first of his name. Instead of Kyros, who did a lot of things, Heron is more internally, and not internally with philosophy, internal thinking, no, thinking internally of his land. He only really cares about flesh. It's a bit lustful, sadistic. He makes many concubines, and we try to seduce many people around the world in Britain. Also, because of his sadistic nature, Kyros is well known for torturing and killing people. He loses stress with the torture. Torture is great for mental health. I'm not saying that. That's what Paradox says. That's what Crusader Kings is saying. I'm just paraphrasing, you know. I only learn things from video games. Have video games ever been wrong about things? No way! It even makes a couple of sussy concubines, but that's the medieval. We have to be immersed. We have to be that Habsburgian, chin-like immersion. We need that in our medieval simulator. You know, the great thing with Heron, because he has so many children, we can sell them. I mean, procure alliances with the Norse to fight the Norse. This way, we are strong. We have strong allies because these Norse invasions keep happening. And there's nothing to do. Annoyingly, there is like civil wars happening constantly, so we have to deal with that too. Well, as soon as Heron dies, because we did expand the realm in Ireland, the title is split in two. And we have Drostano of the first of Caledonia, and Heron the second of his name, ruling Ireland. And for this, I like to assume it is something like the Franks. We pretend the Franks split up their land every time. But according to the Franks, or at least what I read about the Franks still believed they were one Frankish realm. But there were just like different kings you could follow because they had different children. And the strongest one would win or take over. So they didn't see it like literally splitting the realm or the kingdoms. So just like that, both claimed the stone throne in Caledonia, but one of them, because being the younger one, got more of the support in Ireland, where he is saying to the local rulers that he will give them more privileges. So that's where his throne is, and the other one is still in Caledonia, but also some territories from Ireland stay in Caledonian hands. The rule of King Drostano was really a rule of strife. because his legitimacy was pretty low. There was bloody civil wars trying to take the throne, and at the same time they were happening. Then Heron in Ireland decided to invade and try to take bits of Caledonia. It was a chaotic war, but the wars were just firing while the other one was still happening. That it kind of caused it that the rebels would fight the civil war, or the invaders, or like, let's say, the claimants would fight the other claimants. An interesting chaotic war, while the Norse also were invading probably from time to time. We even paid them off a few times. It was something else. But we survived. Drostano ruled for a long time and died at the age of 76. And then we would enter a next era, and this era of Drostano's children or grandchildren, you could call the reign of the four short kings, or the interregnum. Technically, there was no real king ruling. Just as in the time of Drostano, after there were constant civil wars, constant invasions, constant battlings with Ireland, and now also with Britannia. The only difference is that the kings just died rapid fire. We had King Aminius died as quickly as he ruled. There was a couple of fights, a couple of rebellions, done. Drostano II died, drinking too much whiskey, completely died. Then came Bretan Neco, also died. And then came Aminius II, also died. It was just rapid fire. And there's this thing in Crusader Kings. Like, there is like this negative penalty for your rulers once they see that once you start ruling. So like, you haven't ruled enough, you don't have enough legitimacy. But there's also second stat is, I didn't like your predecessor. And because they don't like the predecessor because he didn't rule enough, but he died too, this second stat is building up and it's becoming more and more negative. So after the reign of the four short kings, Canu, a 9-year-old, comes to the throne. Canu rises to the throne, and because he's a 9-year-old, he only has his sisters to marry out to make alliances. What is the big problem? Because before we were able to survive every cataclysmic civil war invasion by marrying off family members, getting a bunch of strong allies. Only now, we don't have that. We only have a couple of sisters, so we betroth them away. The claimants come and we fight war. It's a hard, struggling war. Haven't fought this many wars, at least. The mindset was there, so I knew the land, I knew where to defend, I knew where to fight them off. And after winning, we could be able to revoke their land. And actually, Canu became one of the first strong rulers with a lot of new manpower. The Norse also invade, but we actually win and defeat them and crush them. And then we do the first grand purge, and I have been waiting to do the purge, wiping everybody out that was an enemy, keeping everybody in prison if we still deem them that they just cannot rebel, but we want them to stay in power, paying off people to get, letting people pay off their ransom so we get rich. In the meantime, while we finally are able to get our stuff together, a bunch of other empires start crumbling, like Ptolemaic Egypt start falling apart, the Franks that we spawned in get completely wiped out, but we don't care, because we are stable now, and we even get a cat called Pumpkin, and that's amazing. And there is this lord from Kent that sends us a letter telling us that he learned our language, and we tell him he is an absolute idiot and he doesn't understand our language well. This will not bite us at all later. So the lord from Kent, the great lord from Kent, is absolutely angered with us and declares war to invade Lewis. Why is this place called Lewis? What's going on? Well, I tried to change some of the names because some of the names I know are named after West Saxons, East Saxons, South Saxons. So I tried to change it here and there, but then I became too lazy to change everything. And we fight with the Great Lord of Kent, and I don't know why this little child, I'm gonna project away, because you could say, I am controlling the child, I am making the decisions here. But as soon as something goes wrong, it's the fault of the child, right? It's not my fault. It was this child that insulted the Lord of Kent. I would never have done that. And there is a person that makes fun of Canu. As a first act of coming of age as a king, they're making a silly rhyme about the king. So we have to show that we are strong, and we execute him, we flog him. This actually makes it so we get dread, and people leave the rebellions. Canu is actually showing themselves off to be a capable, dangerous ruler, especially after purging all their political enemies. There's still like one faction that tries to do it. The spiritual faction, the clergy, comes in, and they say that there is like a noble family member in prison that's of the faith, saying they should give the prisoner to them. Canu agrees to the clergy, but of course this is a plot to power, trying to show off who is in power here. Is the clergy in power? Is Canu in power? Is the young new king actually capable to say no to the clergy? And Canu just sends them the cold body of the prisoner killed, instead of actually sending them the prisoner. Not thinking Canu can do whatever he wants. He hooks up with his crush, even that he doesn't marry her. It's just his old childhood crush. He hooks up with her and you know, gets the belly a bit inflated. I don't know what's going on here. We have to keep it PG. They do the Minecraft dance with the harps. Exactly. Yes. The Canu finally wins the war with the Cornish bastard, the Cornish great lord that he insulted. He gets a big war chest, and with this big war chest, he gets a lot of money. And he uses this money to fix a bunch of disasters that happened in the interregnum. Like, Caledonia is still here, but in the interregnum, Lancaster was lost to the Britannians. They invaded and took over. So Canu comes in and retakes the land and fixes the border. It's now all beautiful, except for, I guess, there are little islands in of territory exclaves in Britannia. But we could say this is still the realm of Britannia. Just lords that are filthy to Caledonia instead of Britannia, so they don't need to pay the taxes, and they're under their protection. Complicated politics of the Middle Ages. Canu marries a queen from the Arthurian line. Yeah, we have the Arthurian family. They are somewhere in the south. In Britannia, and he marries into them, so there is like a child from the Arthurian line. Around this time, Canu decides to grow a beard and tries to do something. He tries to invade Ireland, trying to show off to this branch of the family that they are stronger and that they are supposedly to be the rulers of Ireland. The Irish do win the first battle. The king of Ireland dies in the chaos. When the new king Drostano rises to the throne, he's able to take over the county. And then King Drostano comes and he's like, hey, I want to duel you because I'm salty that you took some land and defeated my father. Then he died because he was so sad. Duel me. Canu accepts the duel and he wins. He is strong. Quickly after that, things even look better because Canu gets a new child. The first son. Until now we only had daughters. The line is secure. This son is named Canu from the Arthurian line, so I guess that's pretty cool. And everything looks so great for Canu. Having won in a duel, won in Ireland, finally a male heir, nothing can go wrong, and then Canu is killed by a mob. And we have to, it's a new child. A new child rules the bloody a new child. You have to go through all those events again. Canu II has a burning hate for Prince Nicanor, the murderer of his father. Together with his sisters come to him and crying and tell him, we want you to take revenge, and we want to take this sweet revenge against him, but we cannot arrest him. And we cannot revoke his land. It would trigger a civil war. So we just look. So Canu II just has to wait as a young child, plotting his revenge. How Nicanor, Prince Nicanor, his uncle, has to die. Sadly, because of this, he has to betroth his sisters away because a civil war is looming on the horizon. Then a liberty faction triggers. Canu was able to support his allies, and they come when we race for their banners, and we fight back and win the civil war. There is a peasant revolt, assassination attempt, and all these other things in the meantime, but we push them aside and we are able to arrest the killer of our father and take the sweet revenge on this bastard. Our long life goal, the one cause for stress to Canu II, taking his sweet revenge. We have a guest player join, and the reason the guest player joins to do stuff in the background is to have like the ever migration, and that is because I want to have these things like events happening like Joan of Arc, Avars, Slavic migration, Rise of Islam, but you cannot do everything. Well, I could do everything with making events, but I'm not that great of a modder, so I think it's just easier to let guest players come in and just act out a role, and if they succeed or don't succeed, that event happens, and in that way. In a Borg, a body is found, and this body is apparently 300 years old, so from the ancient time of Massilia, and ghost stories start spreading around from that body, so that's a pretty cool thing to put in the background. Ooh, there are ghosts in the Borg from an old body found there. Canu decides to betrow his crush, just as his predecessor. He doesn't care of marrying for looks or power. He does marry off his own sisters for power, but for himself, no. He is gonna marry his crush. So he betrothed himself already, so that's going to happen. And the player who is supposed to do the Avar migration, and with the Avar migration they were supposed to come down with the Slavic tribes. The Slavic tribes themselves decided to do a migration. So he enters into a fight with the Slavic tribes, who the Slavic tribes apparently are ruled by an ancient family from the Pontic steppes that were the Danae. And the Slavic tribes wipe out the Romans. This is something the tribes from the Pontic steppe have done also in the past. They've wiped out the last Romans that were over there. So it's kind of history repeating. And it's quite funny that the Slavic tribes do a migration, because that was planned to happen. But apparently it's already happening in-game. So we have the Slavic tribes pushing deeper into Europe. As king, we do start rivaling the king of Gaul, and then finally are able to become 16 and marry the crush Unis. Anus. No, not that. That was something else. When quickly after the first precursor for war appears, our Chancellor Good for Nothing claims a way to invade our lands to the King of Britannia. So to preemptively make sure to show that we are boss here, that you have more troops, we are boss, we invade Britannia preemptively to take land from them. For some reason, then the event triggers after Canu is married to his crush to confess to his crush. So they already are married. And his crush, who is his wife, rejects him. Oof! Ow! Ah! He doesn't get a child. The Middle Ages were something else. And for some reason this child has gout. A 0-year-old child has gout. The Norse invade again for 2. And we have to fight them off. And then we decide, you know, a new project has to start. Slowly in the background, some outposts had been formed in the interregnum or in the wars. I just forgot when it happened. I don't have it written down in my notes. That they slowly start taking a bit of lands in Scandinavia. With the idea being, if we take a bit of land there, we maybe are able to curb the Norse invasions. And now, Canu decides to accelerate this process of taking over bits of lands in Scandinavia, hopefully creating a buffer. Because first, the Norse start invading Lancaster and Moray. But as soon as we took Iceland, the Norse focus on Iceland. I mean Tool in this timeline. So the idea is, if we take a bit of Scandinavia and we make that like an independent realm, that would work as a buffer against the Norse invasions, so we can focus less on this constant cycle of Norse invasions. So that's the idea, and that's put into acceleration. Also, Canu being a true war king for the first time after so much, a conqueror, declares also from time to time war with Britannia, having more skirmishes across the border, and even capturing the King of Britannia, winning the war with Denmark, get the nickname of the Mad, fighting off everybody else in the world. In between this, the rise of Islam happens. It is after Muhammad's death, so I thought that would be like the best date to place it, because then we don't need to make that character, because that would be like problematic, I guess, if I would make that fish being cancelled. Yes, I mean, the rise of Islam happens, and we give them a bunch of troops, a bunch of claims, a bunch of territories, a bunch of wars, and they would be 3 times boosted, and see how far they can get of conquering land. Not being done here, because this we seem to be completely in overdrive. Like, the last kings did nothing, but Canu is like the stroke is like a warlike king, and Denmark and Sweden unify under this threat and become a really powerful realm. So this cannot be allowed. So Canu just assassinates the Danish king. The realm falls apart, and declare war against Denmark to take more lands. The war is won in Scandinavia and the Norse kingdom, and just as his predecessor, Canu gets killed by an angry mob. And the land goes to the new king, Pedric. Pedric taking over the throne. For the first time, we are not ruling as a child, so I am quite happy. Canu was able to get old this time before being murdered, and Pedric has to finish off all the conflicts Canu was doing. In the meantime, another claimant comes. Pedric finishes the civil war, finishes the war in Scandinavia. Then we get an interesting message. Pedric gets blackmailed by a pancake or pan comes at us and he's like, hey, you murdered Canu II, so it was us that murdered Canu, the previous king. After winning a bunch of wars, finally, Pedric can do what he stole from his grandfather when he assassinated him. He can form the Kingdom of Norway, and we named this kingdom after Hyperborea. The first place where the Caledonians come is named Calenfall, and the other place where they break through the mountains they call Canu Pass, because Canu the warlord pushing into Scandinavia gets also a name. So this is it. This is where we leave off. We leave off after the chaotic era. The previous era was where we rose from one county to a kingdom. This is the era of chaos, where we try to solidify our rule. The realm has stabilized, beaten down the neighboring rivals to a point that we are on parity with their troops. And in the next era, it's gonna be like, so how do we want to project our power across the British Isles and across the world? Now there are 2 kingdoms with our dynasty. I mean 3 kingdoms apparently in Germany. So some people married into family, and that happened. I make more content about the medieval games, because that's I played that accompanying playing the mega campaign, and I also stream everything. The streams are way further into the future. I hope I can make sure that my videos come close to my stream, so that way we have not that much of a continuity error. And feel always free to like and subscribe. And over here we see a video that YouTube says you will like, because I clicked give them a recommended video. So there we go. Bye bye!